We see the massive systems that run our world every single day. Bridges, power grids, the internet. But what about the stuff you can't see? The invisible architecture that truly dictates how money, information, and risk move across the entire planet. Well, that's what we're diving into today. This hidden infrastructure of global standards, and why its stability is more critical now than ever before. It's a huge question, isn't it? I mean, when you think about the trillions of dollars zipping across borders every single day, what keeps it all from just falling apart? What's the actual glue holding it all together? The answer is probably not what you think.
And boom, this image just nails the whole idea. The real infrastructure that matters here isn't physical at all. It's a deeply complex, interconnected system of shared rules that lets everything else work. Take them away, and you've got pure chaos.
So, there's a name for this system: global standards. Honestly, the best way to think about them is like the operating system for the global economy. They're the agreed-upon rules for literally everything, from how a bank reports its financial health, to how your data is kept secure, to what we even mean by a green investment. They're pretty much the invisible hand guiding the whole thing. Okay, and this is the absolute key takeaway here. The role of these standards has changed in a fundamental way. They've gone from being just background technical details to being the critical, load-bearing infrastructure for the entire global financial system. And when that infrastructure starts to get stressed, well, you have a massive problem. And that's a problem that affects, well, all of us. Because right now, that very infrastructure is showing some really deep cracks. The source material we're looking at today actually identifies 6 distinct ways this system is at risk of failing. It's like finding cracks in the foundation of a skyscraper. You have to understand the danger and you have to act fast. And just so we're clear on how serious this is, we're not talking about some small little problem. As the report puts it, this fragmentation, this cracking apart of the rules, is now considered a top-tier, first-order risk to the entire global economy. That's a big deal.
Okay, let's break down the first failure mode: climate standards. When different countries have totally different rules for what counts as sustainable, investors just can't price climate risk correctly. So, a solar farm might be a top-tier green investment in one country, but get a totally different rating somewhere else. And all that confusion, it pumps a ton of uncertainty and mispriced risk right into the financial system.
Now here's where it gets really interesting for our daily lives. If every country has its own set of rules for data privacy and digital ID, it creates all this friction. It actually makes it way harder to send info securely across borders. And even worse, it basically leaves the digital backdoor wide open for cyber attacks. That's a huge vulnerability. And this leads right into our next big issue: frontier tech. We have these incredibly powerful tools like AI and the cloud at the heart of finance now. But without a global rulebook on how to use them safely, we're basically flying blind into some really new, really unpredictable, and potentially massive financial shocks.
This one's a classic, but with a modern spin. See, prudential rules are just the safety rules that stop financial institutions from taking on way too much risk. But here's the catch. If banks are heavily regulated, but newer players like fintech firms aren't, where do you think all that risky behavior goes? It doesn't just disappear. Nope. It just moves into the shadows, creating massive blind spots that can trigger a crisis.
All right, this next one is all about governments themselves. When there's no clear global standard for how countries report their own debt, it creates all these hidden dangers. A country could look totally stable on the surface, but actually be on the verge of default, which could send shockwaves through the entire system.
And finally, the big one. What happens when a crisis actually hits? If we don't have globally agreed-upon playbooks for how to respond, a problem that starts in one small corner of the world can spiral out of control and turn into a full-blown global meltdown before anyone can react effectively. Okay, so those are the cracks in the system. It's a pretty daunting picture, right? But the good news is, this analysis isn't just about pointing out the problems. It actually gives us a blueprint to fix them. It's like an architect's plan for a new, much stronger building, all built around what it calls a 5-pillar architecture.
So the billion-dollar question is, how do we actually repair this critical infrastructure? Well, the great news is there's a really clear, constructive plan. This isn't about just patching up holes. It's about building a brand new, more resilient architecture from the ground up. So let's walk through it.
First up, Pillar 1 is all about getting our digital house in order. The goal here is a seamless and secure foundation for the whole modern economy. Imagine being able to use one digital ID or one payment system anywhere in the world and knowing it's secure and compatible. That's the kind of interoperability we're talking about.
Pillar 2 gets right at that climate fragmentation problem. This means creating a common taxonomy, which is just a fancy way of saying a shared dictionary, so everyone agrees on what actually qualifies as a green investment. Just think about it. A world where everyone is on the same page about reporting climate risk. That's the goal.
Pillar 3 is about strengthening the very core of the financial system. It's designed to close those regulatory gaps we talked about, making sure the rules for managing risk are strong and, this is key, applied consistently everywhere, not just for banks. No more hiding in the shadows.
Pillar 4 is all about looking ahead. It's about getting out in front of game-changing technologies like AI and quantum computing. By setting up some baseline safety rules and oversight now, we can harness their amazing potential without accidentally unleashing something we can't control.
And the final pillar brings us full circle. It's designed to fix that last failure mode by building that shared playbook for when things go wrong. This means better information sharing, coordinated support systems, basically being prepared before a crisis hits. That's how you build a system that can actually weather a storm.
Okay, so we've seen the problem, and we've got the 5-pillar blueprint for the solution. But the big question is, how do you actually build this thing? Well, the report doesn't just stop there. It lays out a concrete 10-year roadmap to make it happen. Let's take a look.
Now, before we get to the timeline, it's really important to understand the destination. The goal isn't one single rigid set of rules for the entire world. That's just not realistic. The most likely future is what's called a hybrid multi-layer order. You can think of it as a kind of federal system for the global economy. We get strong global agreement on the big stuff that affects everyone, while countries still get flexibility on other things.
And this timeline here, it lays it all out step by step. It's a phased approach, which is smart. From 2026 to 2028, you build a foundation, get everyone to agree on the basics. Then, from 2029 to 2032, you harmonize the bigger, more complex systems. And finally, from 2033 to 2036, you integrate it all into a truly resilient global ecosystem. It makes this huge undertaking feel totally achievable.
And that leaves us with this final, powerful question. That invisible infrastructure we've been talking about is at a major crossroads. Do we go down a fragmented path, which almost certainly leads to more instability and crisis, or do we choose coordination? The path we choose won't just define financial markets. It's going to shape our ability to solve the biggest challenges of our time. It's a choice that will, without a doubt, define the 21st century.